Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today in our first webinar tech update. Hopefully it's the last webinar about the tech update, and I hope we'll see you guys soon at our offices at Exclusive Networks Belgium Duffel. Today we're gonna show you some brand new stuff. So first, Lars from Fortinet is gonna show you FortiEDR with a live demonstration. Then Peter will show you the new features in FortiOS 6.4. And to top it off, I will show you guys the latest news about the FortiDeceptor with a small live demonstration. So, okay, Lars, you can start.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this special Corona Tech update in special circumstances. In November last year, Fortinet bought the product called Ensilo, which is an EDR solution. EDR meaning endpoint detection and response. It was a part that until that moment was a bit missing in the portfolio of Fortinet. The purpose of today is to give you in about half an hour an overview of what the product can mean to you and how it's built up and how it can protect you. So first of all, we have the general console, which is already rebranded to the Fortinet part. And it's a multi-tenant console, which means that you as a partner can manage different customers, but also different customers could, for example, manage different sites. It's not obligatory, but it's a possibility. So to log in, you have to enter the organization name. The management console can be installed whether on-premise, whether in the cloud, or whether in a hybrid environment. So there is a flavor for every company. We know that some customers would like to have it on-premise in their data center. There is an administration guide which will guide you on how to set it up completely on-premise. Others say it's no problem that it is fully running in the cloud. When we log in to the console, we get a general overview on the dashboard. And as I already did some tests, there's already some information in the dashboard. For example, I selected the tests I did from last month, and I can even see to which IP addresses a connection was made out of those different tests. In the security events, I can see I had 6 malicious and 4 suspicious events, 1 critical vulnerability in applications, my collectors, how are they going, 2 are disconnected. It were 2 virtual test devices that are now disconnected, the upstate of my system, and the most targeted devices and malicious or suspicious events that are found. In security settings, that is where it all starts in basis of security. We can create security policies. I already created some. Those with Fortinet behind are the base policies, which will protect you. We have 2 different options. They can be in simulation mode. They can be in prevention mode. Simulation is a good start to test and see what is happening in your environment, but isn't giving any protection. When you put a policy in prevention mode, it's at that point in time that it will really protect you and prevent attacks from happening. We all know that even with a very good security, 100% is never possible. And therefore, if we see something malicious, we can also create playbooks, which is an automatization of actions to take after an attack has happened. For example, I want a notification to be sent by email. I want to terminate the process that is malicious, and I want to clean the persistent data. So the attacker has to do a new attack before he can enter my system again to have a better protection. I can also delete a file, or for further investigation and for better security, isolate the device or move it to a high security group. And I can see to which collector this rule, this playbook is connected. The collector groups is the overview of the different devices and we should get the overview soon. So we can put the devices in different collector groups, and the collector groups are just a summary of the different devices. And it's strange that it doesn't take it. Okay, I want to show all my collectors. So here I have the overview. I can, for example, create new environments, a collector group for IT staff, a collector group for sales, and give them different or point different endpoints to that, and give them separate rules of protection created in the security policies. In my administration, I created a distribution list. When I see something happening, that an email is sent, that email, for example, this was a kind of email with the test I recently did. It was the process gantrap.exe. It was blocked, even it was in simulation mode, or it would be blocked in this simulation mode if we would have put it in prevention mode, and I can click through to the event that is connected to this event notification. If I go back to my dashboard, I know it was this Gantt graph because it's the same event ID, and I see what is happening, and even that we had the protection in simulation mode. Threat family, the threat type, and the threat name as how we know it, on which device, and it was terminated. If I want further forensics, further analysis, I can click on this process asking for forensics. I get a bit more information. This is the flow analyzer view, but if I go to the stack view, I can see a parent process creation, some parent process creations, a file read attempt, and then on pre-execution, so even before the action was taken, pre-execution, we saw it was Gantt graph, and we blocked it. We can also see the hash. It's the same as this hash. And if I click on the 3 points, I can search it up in VirusTotal, or I can start the threat hunting. And if I go to the threat hunting, I can see it has passed by on 2 devices, on 2 different paths in the past 2 weeks. And I can even see on which devices this has been found. So to better protect our environment, I can also search on a file name. Now the search was automatic on the hash. If we go to a completely separate virtual environment, I have some test data over here, an Emotet TrickBot. I have the Gantt graph, for example. On this environment, Ensilo is running. We can see it here. Ensilo is running, and only the pre-execution is in simulation mode. the execution and exfiltration prevention is in prevention mode. So if I try to run GandCrab at this moment, we will see that Ensilo is triggered for the protection, and it can take some time before the application of Ensilo is triggered, but it will give information on stopping the threat with the execution and exfiltration prevention. So here we can see that the service access was blocked for this kind of process. And also later on, some additional activities, and even GandCrab was deleted at this moment. And I just got a mail notification telling me that something was blocked. If we go back to the management console on our dashboard and even in our event viewer, I just got all this information about GandCrab that it was blocked. And if I zoom in on the threat hunting data or the event graph, I see what was happening, and I see Fortinet blocked at this point in time a bitmap. Some services and all the information, the decryptor, a shadow copy access. So GandCrab was trying to delete the shadow copies of Windows. And I go again in the forensics, and at what point in time I get here all the information about what they tried to do and how it was stopped. And also, again, I can look it up in VirusTotal or search it on threat hunting. So there is a direct connection with VirusTotal. 53 engines detect this file. And if I go to the threat hunting, it is seen in one path because it was deleted on the device itself. It is the same with, for example, the Emotet malware. And I see it has already been deleted out of the past because it was already running sometime on the system. And it would be the same blocking it with the pre-execution prevention. I can extract and the system is apparently running a bit slow. I should be able to extract it and then do the same test as I did the previous test. So when going back to this environment, I have the malicious Word document with a macro for Emotet. When opening it, it's just another malware attack, not a ransomware. I am that guy who is clicking on everything I want to use the macros, even if I know it's not safe. And now it will be starting a PowerShell, which again will be blocked by FortiEDR, giving us again in our dashboard and in our event viewer an overview on what is happening. It's just taking some time to have the communication between the two consoles that something malicious happened again. So with this, we will have an overview on what happened on our devices. We can do forensic analysis and do some further threat hunting. We can create security policies, and we can create playbooks for automatic protection against those kinds of attacks, and automatic protection so the administrator doesn't have to look all the time in the system. Within our administration, we can also connect to a syslog or open a ticket on a ticketing system. We can create different syslogs, so you can integrate, for example, with ServiceNow or some other tools, just that the help desk or first line support doesn't have to log in all the systems to see what's happening, but have a global overview on your security. This is in short what FortiEDR can mean to you. It's a complete EDR solution with full visibility, full protection, pre-execution, on the momentum of execution, and with post-execution prevention. I don't know, Stan, if it's we now have time for questions or they can be asked later on.
No, we already had some questions. So if you're finished, we can do the Q&A for FortiEDR.
Finished at this moment, yes.
Okay, so one of the questions was: is this a replacement for FortiClient, or will they be able to combine the two, or what's the story there?
At this point in time, it's not yet clear whether FortiClient and FortiEDR will be combined in one solution. As FortiEDR is a kernel process that is running on the system, it's much more low level than the FortiClient. It's a different type of protection. The FortiClient is rather a fat client in comparison to FortiEDR. At this point in time, it's our two different products with two different consoles and two different solutions. On the vision of protection, FortiEDR goes much further than the FortiClient. But for remote access, web protection, application control, we need the FortiClient. So if we purely look to endpoint protection and security, FortiEDR is better positioned than FortiClient. If we look for a solution for remote access, web control, when somebody is using his laptop outside of the network, application control, then FortiClient is much better positioned than the FortiEDR solution.
Okay, that was clear. Anyone else has a question? You can submit them in the control panel. Okay, Lars, it doesn't seem like there's any other questions, so thanks for the demonstration. If there are any questions, just ask them. We can still do a follow-up later on this webinar. Then I think it's now time that Peter becomes a new presenter, and he will show you the new things about FortiOS 6.4.
Stan, I see a second question. The endpoint software that is providing the signaling to the console, it's really the FortiEDR client that is communicating and signaling to the console. It's not the Forti client that is doing it. So FortiEDR is responsible, because in my demo environment I didn't have Forti client installed.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Lars. Now Peter will take over.
Okay, thanks guys for the first part of the presentation. I hope you see now something like new FortiOS 6.4 highlights on your screen. So my name is Peter van Hemelrijk. Probably you know me. I'm a pre-sales from Fortinet for a while now, let's say 10 years. So I will present you the new stuff about 6.4, who's still in beta. Beta 3 is already a while there. And I don't know if you guys have already played with it, but that's basically the reason why to have this small WebEx 30-45 minutes on what are the new top features on 6.4. So what I will present today is of course subject to change. It can happen that features presented in beta 3 will not make the general availability built at the end of a certain time. So let's go. I have no real lab today to show you things real life. No, I don't have that. But I have a content, I distillized some content I found about 6.4, and I'll present you this now. So the first nice feature is about log buffering on a FortiGate. So in the past, before 6.4, if you had a FortiGate and the connectivity to, let's say, the FortiAnalyzer was broken, there was a possibility to store the logs in memory till the FortiAnalyzer connectivity was back again. But as you probably know, the memory that was used for that was limited, and you could run in cases that you're going to lose logs. So this feature is an enhancement on that one. So if you have a FortiGate that has SSD disks, yeah, we will first log in memory, and if the memory buffer is full, we will log to the disk on the moment when the FortiAnalyzer is not available. So I think this is really a nice feature. Of course, it's you need to have a FortiGate with a disk. That's, let's say, an upsell functionality. On the other hand, on a security perspective, and then certainly if you want to build a security fabric, and you know that the mandatory components to build a security fabric is your FortiGate and your FortiAnalyzer. It means that FortiAnalyzer collects all the logs of your components. So if you lose some logs, yeah, your visualization of the content in your security fabric view is not complete. So this is a really important feature for that. 6.4. Another one is about asymmetric designs. So this is a situation where you see on the slide here, you have a FortiGate on the left, FortiGate 1, and you have a FortiGate on the right, a FortiGate 2. It's not really a cluster in this scenario, not a cluster like we know where we manage a cluster like one device and the high availability is done by itself. No, this is a cluster where we only have the FortiGate session sync protocol in between. It means that, yeah, only the FortiGate are managed completely separated. So this can be a problem in asymmetric. This can be a problem on security when you have asymmetric routing. Now, this functionality here adds some nice features. So, in case, for example, traffic is sent on FortiGate A1 and comes back via FortiGate 2, yeah. In a normal situation, you have an asymmetric routing, and the traffic will not be forwarded; it will be blocked. Now what we will do is traffic that will be sent to FortiGate 1, returned via FortiGate 2, and the flows will go over the link here and be controlled, and the policy check for UTM will be done on the FortiGate 1. and be delivered to the endpoints. So this is a nice feature, I think, if you have scenarios where asymmetric routing is the case. Next one, SSL-based application detection over decrypted traffic in a sandwich topology. Now, we know that our FortiGate is a nice box to do traffic inspection on SSL encrypted traffic. So we have those technology on board to decrypt the traffic and see what's inside and do some actions on it. And for web filtering, application control, IPS, or whatever kind of other functionality on the FortiGate. Now you can have this kind of scenarios, meaning that in front and the back of your FortiGate, you have machines, systems who will do the decryption for you. So you will not decrypt the SSL session on the FortiGate. No, you will do it in front and back of your FortiGate on other boxes. So it means if a client will go to the server, it takes HTTPS, it will be decrypted on this proxy one, clear text over the FortiGate. Now it comes, FortiGate looks at certain flows and he say, yeah, for that application, that flow, I need to first decrypt my traffic. But because it's already decrypted, yeah, he don't need to do. So we added some options in the code of application control and IPS on signature level that even when the flow is not decrypted, that we will inspect the traffic with application control and IPS. So this is an, you can say why we build this kind of features. That's for a future release of a FortiSSL machine. So this is a little bit roadmap. We will have in the future, FortiADC, you heard about that one. We will have a box that has a function, a specific function of the FortiADC, and we'll name it, the name will be FortiSSL, and will be specialized in encryption and decryption of SSL traffic. Why we do that? That's for building high availability, high density, high throughput clusters for traffic inspection. So nice feature. Another thing is about the Internet Service Database. So the Internet Service Database, who is probably a database who has an inventory of the internet services, whatever kind of internet services, with where it's located, the radio, the city, the TCP/IP addresses, and etc., and the port numbers, etc. So in certain scenarios, customers want to use this internet service database, but will only use the, for example, in this case, Google services, only the Google services that are available in the US. That's what you see here. So I want to use Google services from the US who are in the Regio, California, and are hosted in the city Sunnyvale. For example, you can have the same for other applications that are hosted in Belgium. For example, a customer in Belgium wants to use, let's say, Google Gmail. Google Gmail can only be used in Belgium, in the Regio Brussels, etc. Those kind of flexibility you have today with the Internet Service Database with 6.4. We had already some requests from customers in the past in our Regio, Belgium and Luxembourg for this one. In addition to the Internet Service Database, you probably know that we have a botnet database. This botnet database, who had different names in the past, like EBDB and like IRDB, will all be merged to one big database, to the ES Internet Service Database. Well, I personally think is a good idea. to consolidate all those different databases to one. So it means that in the subscription part, like you can see here on the small screenshot, on the FortiGuard, you have this Internet Service Database number 7. etc. And also the botnet database is also 7. etc. It means that the database will be fed, the botnet database will be fed by Internet Service Database. It's good evolution. About SD-WAN, yeah, you know SD-WAN, it's a hot topic, it's a hot feature, trendy feature, quite a lot of use on FortiGates, in smaller design, medium designs, but also in very large designs. You will see that in some slides later on about features. So the problem with the SD-WAN logs we had in 6.2 is about the log structure. So we had not subtypes logs for events. It means we had a subscription. We know that it was an SD-WAN log, but every information about the SD-WAN log was written in the message of that log. And that's something not nice. It's difficult to run databases behind. So therefore, like we did for all the other logs we are generating from the FortiGate, we created subsystems, event log subsystems. And you can see a couple of them here highlighted, like virtual WAN link status, volume status, SLI information. And that gives us the possibility to bring this information on a graphical user level to the system operators, to the operators, in fact, who will use FortiAnalyzer, who will use FortiManager as a control plane for the SD-WAN. So all the logs generated now by the SD-WAN system are normalized, let's say, and can be much better interpreted by the FortiAnalyzers we have now. So it's not really visible as a feature today for the end user, but he will be benefiting about what we will present in the graphical user interfaces, for example, in FortiManager. So this is an additional feature on AD-VPN in combination with SD-WAN. So what design is this here? Yeah, it's a more, I don't want to say complex design, or not at all, but in case you have, for example, branch offices, typical in a retail environment, you have a headquarters, where the main traffic is from branch to the headquarters, yeah, from the right to the left. We will use SD-WAN to use the optimal excuse me, to use the optimal path to the headquarters. So let's say 99% of the traffic is between the branch and the headquarters, but sometimes we need to have communication between branches. Let's think about voice over IP and those kind of things. So we will activate a shortcut based on AD-VPN, auto-discovering VPN. So if there a communication needed between, let's say, branch 3 and branch 2, first packet will flow to the headquarters, but due to the AD-VPN mechanisms that we have, we can build shortcuts to, let's say, in this case, branch 2. That's something already possible with 6.2, yeah. But what was not possible, that's in fact monitoring the link. In case you have two shortcuts from branch 3 to branch 2, you again want to use the best path for the application to branch 2. Therefore, we need to have the possibility to do some SLA monitoring. And that's something we can do now with 6.4. So there's a feature in this scenario that will be used quite a lot. On the presentation of the SD-WAN interfaces, so we took the way of presenting things like we are doing it for the users. So if you go to the user tab on your FortiGate GUI, you will see that we present all those the users depending on operating systems, etc., on this kind of tables, charts. We found out that it is the best methodology to present something to the sysadmins, and therefore we port that type of code also to the SD-WAN interface presentation. And depending on what you click here, you will see more or less details on the dashboard. SD-WAN rules, not really a big change on how we work with rules, no, not at all, but more about visualization in this case. So if you hover, for example, over one of the rules in SD-WAN, I hover over the one with this mark here, it will say, yeah, this one is selected. It means that this interface will be selected to forward the traffic coming from this source and that destination. So it goes over VLAN 30. And if you hover over it, you will see why mentioned memory is selected has best measured performance. So the way to present something, fast navigation, and show you something is much better than in previous versions. And also on this one, so if you hover again over, for example, this 2 VLAN 30, who is not really the selected interface where traffic will flow over, no, but you can see the status about it. It's up, physical interface, the upstream IP addresses, but also what's more important, it's about the SLA performance that's shown. So you don't need to go to another pane, another entry in or another GUI or FortiGate to show something. You can do it direct from the rules that you have defined. If you build a security policy, if you build an SD-WAN rule, in 6.2, you had the possibility to use the protocols ping and HTTP, but now you can also add DNS, because DNS is one of the most used protocols to find out if the network is available, yes or no. Yeah, another feature about this one, who was really missing also, let's say, it's in case when you have, again, 2 spokes here and a hub, but the 2 spokes are behind NAT. So if you want to do some communication between endpoints on the left side, behind spoke 1 to spoke 2, because of the 2 FortiGates with SD-WAN are behind NAT, in 6.2 was a limitation. We couldn't handle that traffic. But now with the 6.4 version, we can work with dual NAT functionalities in RDVPN scenarios. Switch controllers, complete other domain of SD-WAN. Now we are talking about the access layer used on the FortiGate and the Forti switches. You could imagine that a certain endpoint, a PC, is not compliant anymore with certain settings defined on your network, and you want to put that machine in quarantine. You have 2 possibilities, or you put it in another VLAN. Yeah. Okay, another VLAN means that the interface will receive probably a new DHCP address. Yeah? In certain situations, it can be difficult. Therefore, we have a second solution, and that's now the default one. In the case that in this PC who's on port 1 of the Forti switch, what we will do, we will basically update an address group that's living called quarantine device. We will add that to a policy, and that policy will block the traffic of that PC to the internet in this case. On the wireless level, on the FortiGate, starting with 6.4 on the firmware of the access points, the E series, we have those spectrum analyze visualization on the graphical user interface. And we can do that for the 2.4 band and also for the 5.0 gigahertz band. For troubleshooting and debugging, it's nice. We will introduce a NAC functionality on the FortiGate. So FortiGate will be able to identify with its local database what kind of devices are connected and build a certain security policy. But in case that the FortiGate cannot identify type of device that's used, he has now the possibility, and that's new, he has the possibility to send that device information he collected to FortiGuard, and FortiGuard will tell him, okay, this is a device of that type. So it's a service that will be added on the FortiGate, or it is an individual service, or it is part of the enterprise and or FortiCare 360 bundle. Also about geo IP addresses. It's also about the Internet Service Database, basically. So this is a situation where you can have a certain IP address that's used, let's say here, I'm going to take an example here. I have a certain IP address, this one here ended with .10, that's hosted in Canada, but the registration of that TCP IP address, that's done in China. Yeah. So what you can now do in your policy, and it depends on the use case of your customer now, a customer can say if the real IP address location is not the same as the registration location, we do not allow the communication to that TCP IP address. And that's basically what's mentioned here. So in this case, if the IP address location is different than the one it's registered, it will not be allowed to do the communication. Tuning your security policy, optimize your security policy. That's basically what we'll do with this kind of functionality. There is a lot of new automation available in the security fabric. I mentioned some of them: compromised host, content, incoming webhook, etc. All mentioned here. More to come, I will say. About integration with FortiManager and objects. So FortiManager can, for example, be used to collect user information from an Aruba ClearPass. In the 6.2 version, those objects could already be synchronized to a FortiGate, like you can see here. Yeah? And they came under the pane, the policy, address policies, it came under the pane FortiManager. But at a certain moment of time, you can have so many objects that you can't see the trees in the bushes. So what we have done with 6.04, we added some tags. So you can see here on the right side. So there is a difference. You can see it on the GUI, a difference between the objects that were received from the integration with the ClearPass on the FortiManager and all the other objects. So it should make life easier when building up a security policy on your FortiGate. Feature that also was added that our Fortinet can now be integrated in the security fabric. You can see different things of your Fortinet. Nice, I think. That's the last one, I think. Yeah, that's the last. No, that's not the last one. It's about dynamic addresses on the moment when you use SSL VPN. So this can be a nice feature and function for the situation we have today with Corona to enhance the security on that level. So you know, if you're using SSL VPN in tunnel mode, we link a certain IP address range to the users, your virtual IP address, basically that will be used to communicate to the inside network. So that's a pool. And to be honest, the control on that one is difficult because we do, let's say, a mix of authentication and authorization on do a mix of authentication and authorization. It's difficult to separate them. What we will achieve with this functionality is that we will really make a separation between authentication and authorization. So after a user that's authenticated and depending on his user group profile living in the AD, we can allow access, authorize access to certain internal resources. And that's what we achieve with this functionality. So if we look at this diagram, of course, in this scenario, you have a gate, you have a FortiAuthenticator, and you have the collector also. Okay, the collector, this function can be integrated in the authenticator, like you know, but this is more, let's say, a functional diagram to explain the functions of the different components. So in the moment when the user starts an SSL VPN tunnel to your FortiGate, he will enter his username and password. It will be forwarded in this case to the authenticator, who swapped it to an LDAP binding request, check the username and password on the LDAP AD server. Let's assuming that's okay, feedback again to the authenticator, feedback again to the FortiGate, and the user does receive an authorization okay. What the FortiGate now will do is that he will send an accounting request, an accounting packet, this accounting packet to the collector. The collector will check the user's IP address, the user's user groups will receive that and send that via an FSO channel to the FortiGate. So the FortiGate has a nice relationship between groups, users, and IP addresses. So it's like a regular FSO update. And because it's a regular FSO update, we can play with user groups like you want. So if a user A belongs to a user group 1, he has access to certain services. Another user belongs to another user group, has access to other services. You see, this is a really nice feature to do this. And I think this is the last one. It's about application control and SCADA. So typically in a SCADA environment, it's a pity that I show here Facebook as a SCADA protocol, but nevertheless, it's just to show you the functionality. So what we have now as the possibility in SCADA environments, that's playing with parameters. So we can control parameters that are used in a certain protocol. So in this case, I use Facebook app. In that Facebook app, I can add parameters. Imagine these are SCADA parameters. Yeah, I say on parameter 1 it must be 22, on parameter 2 it must be 42, on parameter 3 it must be 16. Yeah? And depending on those values, we allow or disallow application communications. It's typical feature that will be used in SCADA. Voila, This was the last slide on the 6.4 beta 3 release. I hope all the features I presented here will make it to the general availability release, because I think these are rather important features. So this is already a subset of the 300 who are available today. So in case you have questions, please ask them. I don't see, are there some questions for the moment?
Yeah, there are some questions, Peter. The first one is from Garrett, who asked, when will 6.4 come out?
That's a very good one. It was normal foreseen for, what are we now, 27, before the 31 March. So it was between 21 and 31 March, but till today, I didn't see any announcements. So let's hope it's before till before 31 March. Otherwise, it will not be very late in time because it was scheduled for this period. If there is a slip, it certainly will be released in the first half of April, my assumption. So again, this will be a 6.4.0 with a lot of new features. So our suggestion is play with it, learn on it, but don't put it in production. Don't put it in production because it will be fresh new software, and you know, with fresh new software, that can happen different things. Keep that in mind. Other questions, Sam?
Yeah, I think it's the follow-up questions. Could you use it on FortiManager and then use the benefits of SD1? So I guess he means update the FortiManager to 6.4 and then use the SD1 features on FortiGates who are on 6.2, if I understand the question correctly.
Yeah, there are two methodologies basically. You can, if you, even today, if you're running 6.2 softwares on FortiGate and FortiManager, you can import your SD1 policies, interfaces, SLAs into the FortiManager and use them as templates. That's quite easy to do today. Of course, that will be possible with the 6.4 releases, that's for sure. And we go even further with 6.4. This is not a presentation about FortiManager 6.4, but what we will have on 6.4 on FortiManager, we will have an SD1 management plane. So we will have a widget, an application, let's say, and certainly we will talk later on this month about it, that we have an easy to manage SD1 environment out of FortiManager. Because today, if you go to FortiManager, you need to know quite a lot of parameters and functionalities. And in some scenarios, it's not needed. Therefore, we will have let's say, a GUI flow that makes an SD1 management environment much easier. But we will show you that on the moment when the software is ready to show something.
Okay. Another question of Mathieu is, he asks if the ClearPath connector, who is now in the FortiManager, will also come to the FortiGate. I don't think that's the case, but maybe
no, it's not the case. No, today the connector is really on the FortiManager. Yeah. I didn't have seen any releases of features that it will be on the FortiGate.
Okay, and also another question from Bavo, who asked something about the 40 APs of the F series because they were not mentioned. I think he means because you mentioned the E series with the new spectrum analysis. It also applies for the F series, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose also. So the release notes shows today that it is the E series, but mainly I think they want to say it's not on the D and the C series. It will be on the F series, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think that those were all the questions.
Okay, thank you guys for your interest. Yeah, there is certainly
I've got one last question. Sorry, Peter. The connection about ICE. I assume Cisco ICE that Eric is asking me about. I think it's the same as ClearPass. It's from the FortiManager, but not from the FortiGate. Correct me if I'm wrong.
For ICE, Cisco ICE, I think it's direct on the FortiGate. I make some notes, but I think it's direct on the FortiGate today already. I think it's a feature. Yeah, I will look it up and send it via the mail to you guys.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Peter.
Okay, thank you guys for your interest. Of course, it's beta. It's just the first attempt to show you something about 6.0.4. Like usual, with exclusive network, we will build up labs probably in the next 40 updates end of June. So please stay tuned. Thanks. So
okay, thank you, Peter.
How to stand? Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Thanks.
Okay, let me start my slide deck. To assure you guys, I'm not gonna do a long PowerPoint. I know it's already been tough because you're listening for more than an hour already. So we're just gonna do a quick presentation about the FortiDeceptor, just to position it and what it can do, and then we do a live demonstration. So, okay, the FortiDeceptor. Why do we need a FortiDeceptor? Well, the problem is there are a lot of
I see your presenter notes. Is that the reason?
Okay, that's not my intention. Sorry for that. Let me check.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Peter.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So again, what's today's biggest problem with all the data breaches? We got a lot of data breaches who originate externally, but also internally. Okay, it can take only a few minutes for the initial compromise, but after that initial compromise, it can take over months before that attack is being discovered. Okay, so once an attacker is inside an organization, it can take months before the client even knows that he's compromised. The reason that the dwell time, so the dwell time is the time between compromised and detection. The reason that dwell time is so high is because there are not a lot of tools in position who can detect such kind of attacks. Okay, in the last few years, that dwell time was getting lower, and it was because of there were more tools in place and better people who are examining those attacks, but also because there are a lot of ransomwares. Okay, ransomware is in your face, so as soon as you see a ransomware, okay, you know you've been breached. So what is one of the problem is, okay, a lot of breaches, and we have to close that dwell time as soon as there's an initial compromise. We need to discover that there is actually a breach. And the problem remains the same, okay? We already said this a lot of times, but there are only a few people who are staffed and equipped to do stuff like that, and not a lot of time. We also have complex environments. It can be operational technologies or your enterprise environment, but there are a lot of different factors that you have to account with. And we have a lot of different products we need to configure and maintain. Again, the story about the security fabric. So we got a really broad attack surface. We need an integration of all those products, because if you have to maintain all those products from all different kinds of consoles, it's very difficult to maintain everything. Okay, and the more we can automate, the better. So it increases our response time, and also if you automate it, you don't have to look at it, and you also win a lot of extra time. So if you talk about security operations, we got 4 pillars that are very, very important. Okay, first of all, we need to prevent cyber threats. Prevention is very important. We still do a lot of stuff on prevention, like the FortiSandbox. Okay, Sandbox is pure prevention. Also, to notify you if there's something wrong, but focus on prevention. Okay, the next thing is we have to detect advanced threats. Lars already explained FortiEDR. It's a very cool endpoint that is able to detect these type of attacks. And also important is the response. EDR, detection and response. We have to respond to those incidents. So those are the most important parts. We have to detect the attacks and we have to respond to those incidents. There are a lot of solutions in the Forti product portfolio, but today we're going to focus on the FortiDeceptor. And the FortiDeceptor is actually a device that is good for inside threats and external threats. Okay, with inside threats, you think about data leak prevention, user behavior-based stuff, cloud access security broker. And on the other side, our external threats, we think about our next-gen firewall, about internal segmentation, our FortiWeb with our web protection, and endpoint protection and EDR. So the fit here is FortiDeceptor. What we do with FortiDeceptor is actually something we know from before, but we're just going to do it a lot better. Okay, think about your classical honeypots. Okay, so we position honeypots through our network, but we're not only going to position them, we're going to lure the attackers to those honeypots, and we're going to manage that honeypot from the FortiDeceptor. So the FortiDeceptor is actually your hypervisor who spawns the honeypots, who positions them inside the network, and then you can create decoys and lures to actually attract the attackers to those honeypots. And then just to top it off, when an attack is in place, we alert you and we can automatically quarantine that attacker, okay? Based on information we got from our FortiDeceptor, he can communicate to the FortiGate and the FortiAnalyzer to quarantine that attacker. That's the whole idea about it. Okay, so first we need to position our different honeypots inside your environment, okay? So how we're going to do that is we're going to create some honeypots. We're going to position them at strategical places, and then we're going to create our tokens. So our tokens are actually our breadcrumbs that we're going to spread to our entire environment to lure people to the honeypot. Think about RDP shortcuts with cache credentials, network shares, putty, favorites, stuff like that. So when an attacker comes to a system and he tries to do a lateral movement, he checks and he sees stuff on the system that points him to our honeypot. Of course, the attacker has no idea he's going to a honeypot. So that's the whole idea about it. And the cool thing is we can not only do that for Windows and Linux environments, but we can also emulate SCADA environments, which is kind of cool. Okay, so after deceive, we need to expose the attacker. If an attacker connects to one of our honeypots or uses credentials from our honeypots, we need to be alerted, okay? It's also very important that those alerts are being bundled, because if you have too many alerts, people won't look at it because, yeah, too much information, it's not always good. So that's why it's important to consolidate those alerts and give you a good view about what is happening. And that's what a FortiDeceptor can do. Okay, he applies analytics to it, and you get one pager about what is happening. And then you can choose to do this manually based on information that we provide you, or you can automatically quarantine an IP address from the attacker. Okay, so if an attacker already compromised the system and he wants to move lateral, based on the lateral movement to our honeypot, we know for sure, okay, that PC is compromised, and then a FortiGate can quarantine it. So that's the whole idea about the FortiDeceptor, to stop that lateral movement. It's not just a honeypot, there's also a lot of intelligence behind it, and it's actually something they already have, and they combine it to create a powerful engine. Okay, so the anti-reconnaissance and anti-exploit service engine. It's based on the antivirus service that Fortinet already has. Right? Combined with web filtering service, we have a lot of information. We have a huge IP botnet database we have, and we also have a very powerful IPS engine. With our IPS engine, we can detect all kinds of exploits and attacks. So all this information combined make sure that we have the right analytics to detect attacks on our honeypots. With one FortiDeceptor, we can deploy, for example, in the core or somewhere else in our environment. We can deploy it, and we can deploy our decoy VMs on different branches. Okay, so you don't need a FortiDeceptor for every branch. No, you just do it in HQ, and then you can just push your VMs on different parts of your network. And I already mentioned it, but I'm going to say it again. Also, your operation technologies. So to summarize, and after this, we can do the demonstration. We got a lot of breaches, external and internal threats. We can do this for our DMZ. We can do this for all parts of our network. So in that way, we can do both actually. We redirect our attacks, so we lure them to our VMs because we place breadcrumbs on other systems. We analyze that attack, and then we can respond accordingly. Of course, we have a fabric integration. So as soon as there's a threat with a certain medium or high alert, we can say, okay, quarantine that endpoint. Broad coverage. So with one FortiDeceptor, we can cover our entire IT department, our network. And it's really easy to use. I will show you the GUI. It's just easy to use and to maintain. So, okay, for our demo, it's actually a part of the fast track. I think most of you already know the fast track. Fast track is one of the cool cloud-based labs that Fortinet provides us and our partners. So this is a part of one of those fast track labs. What we see here is a network, okay? And the story here is that there's a PC which is called Bob, and Bob is already infected. So Bob was tricked in clicking an email link and is already infected. So the attacker, who is the Kali host on the right, so the attacker has already infected Bob and is waiting for Bob to power on his PC today and to get a connection so he can control Bob. So our attacker is a command and control server. What we're gonna try to do with Bob is we're gonna try to move lateral, so lateral movement. But what the attacker does not know is that we have the FortiDeceptor in place. So based on lateral movement, we wanna isolate Bob from a network so we make sure that he does not have a connection to the attacker anymore. So that's the use case that we're gonna do now, okay? So we're gonna show you how it deployed, so the decoy VMs, and then we're gonna see how FortiDeceptor reacts on lateral movement of the attacker. And then later on, we're gonna show you the integration. Okay. Yeah, I'm just struggling with showing you my screen. Okay. So this is our FortiDeceptor. If we take a look at our dashboard, you can see it's the same look and feel as any other Fortinet device. What we see here now is a dashboard of the FortiDeceptor. Okay, this is a demo environment. There's not a lot of VMs deployed, but it gives you an idea. We got alerts. So alerts are the services that are running on the VMs, and then we got our decoys. If we look at our different deception operation systems, These are the ones we support now. You can upload your own, but these are the ones you can just use from Fortinet itself. So for endpoint environments, it's Windows and Linux, and this is for our SCADA environment. As you can see, we support a lot of different types of services to lure your attacker to one of those decoys. If you want to deploy a new decoy, it's actually quite easy. You can either create a template or you can use a template that's already there. You choose the type of OS you want to do. Okay, Windows. You want to lure for RDP. You add lure and you type in a username and password that you just made up. Same for SMB, and then you deploy that. Okay, so as soon as it's deployed, you got a new decoy here. We're gonna start that decoy now. And here we take a look about some more details about our decoy. So it's a Windows 7 device we're gonna emulate with RDP and SMB protocol. And those are the credentials of our device, okay? What we could do, it's part of the fast track, is you can download, once it's started, you can download a package. Okay, a package is the breadcrumb I was talking about. It's a small installer you can install on all your other systems in your network, and that package contains the breadcrumbs, so cache credentials and stuff like that, RDP sessions, shortcuts for RDP. So all this is actually developed just to lure your attacker to one of those decoy VMs. Okay, so this one is starting. Now let's check our attacker screen. So this is a Kali Linux. For people who are not familiar with Kali Linux is an entire Linux system you can download, and it's to hack people. No, not really. It's actually what you can use to do pen testing, which you can use to test your own network or your customer's network. There are a lot of cool tools in place already pre-installed for you to play with and to check how securely your environment is. So, as I mentioned before, let me get back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So this is our topology. Bob is already infected, and now we're just waiting for a connection to our command and control server. That's a Kali. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start a listener. Okay, a listener is actually saying to the Kali Linux, okay, I'm expecting one of my infected clients to connect. Please listen to that IP address and on that port. So everything went well. This is Bob now, okay? We already attacked Bob. Bob is now is now under control of the attacker. If I'm an attacker, which I am now, I want to know what I can do, okay? I want to go lateral in that environment because Bob is just a user. I want to get more. I want to go to servers. I want to go to a domain controller. So I want to reach out and see what else is out there. So what I can do is do an RP scan. And I'm going to check all kind of different subnets. So now I launched an RP scan, and we're going to get a reply of all different kind of IP addresses and with the corresponding MAC addresses. Now, I know this is the IP address, the 29 is the IP address of my decoy. But as you can see, it's a Realtek MAC address. So it's not VMware. So you have actually no idea this is not a real device or a virtual machine. So, okay, this is the result. We see there are a lot of stuff in our network. Next, I'm gonna do a pivot so I can go lateral from Bob. So Bob will be my pivot for the rest of the network. Okay, and now we'll see that these are now accessible from Bob. Okay, we get now access to the network, so we can try to take a look at all different kind of stuff. So okay, this host interests me because it's a Realtek, and I just want to see what's behind it. What I can do now is do a port scan. So I'm gonna do a TCP port scan to see what kind of services are running on that host. Okay, so that's my host. I'm gonna do a TCP scan. Okay, it tells me there are different ports open here. I see RDP, I see SMB, so that's quite interesting for me to know as an attacker that all those things are possible. Now, from a defender point of view, let's go back to the dashboard of the FortiDeceptor. Okay, give him a moment to load everything. We can see there are new incidents. If you take a look at our incidents, we go to analysis. We can see there are connections, different type of connections to one of our decoys. And now we can see, okay, there appears to be a port scan attack on my device. So because we see in only a few seconds, we see a port scan on all those different ports. So we are quite sure that someone is actually trying to scan our network to find something to attack. It gives you a good idea. Now, what I'm gonna do now, and what I would have done before, but just to show you what we can do, is we could add some extra security by integrating our firewall. Okay, we're gonna say with these kinds of severities, so maybe low is too extreme. Okay, the browser is not really working that well. Okay, so now I'm gonna integrate the firewall with it. Okay, so now we got an integration between the FortiDeceptor and our FortiGate, which means if I'm gonna try an attack now, our FortiGate will automatically block Bob's IP address. Okay. So again, I'm an attacker. I control Bob's PC now, and from Bob's PC, I'm gonna attack this device, and I can see that port 3389 is open, but I can also see the SMB is open. So what I'm gonna try to do is do the Eternal Blue exploit. Eternal Blue is one of the NSA's magical tools to run an exploit and to get full admin control on an other PC. So okay, this is the port I'm gonna use. I want to reverse connection after I do that. And I will launch it. Okay. So our exploit is running now. We're gonna look again in the FortiDeceptor. And just wait a second. Let's try to run it again. It's always a problem with live demonstrations. No, it's not ready yet. Okay, so the downside is when you try to do exploit, that does not always work. It's still software. Even though you're an attacker, you still have the same problems than everyone else has. Okay, this is a new one. Okay, this is the one I would like to see. Okay, so now we got a new analysis and it's an IPS attack. Okay, so we're trying to do an attack on our SMB server here. So you see this is trying to use a known exploit to attack that computer. And if we take a look at our quarantine status now, we see that there's new IP added. Okay, so this is the IP address of Bob. Me as an attacker, I had Bob's control over his PC, but now I don't have the control anymore. Okay, if I try to do something, okay, if I want to comment, meet a peer or command shell, doesn't matter. If I want to shell now, it won't work because Bob is being isolated. Okay. I'm trying to do stuff as an attacker, but I cannot do anything. I'm locked out. If we take a look at Bob's computer, so this is Bob's computer. Bob has no idea he was infected, but Bob now realized he does not have a network connection anymore. He's being locked. I cannot even access Bob's computer anymore, so he's completely quarantined from the network. So just based on the information that the FortiDecoy saw, you know that Bob was compromised, told the FortiGates to quarantine it, and FortiGate then quarantine Bob's machine. So that was, in short, one of the use cases we can use the FortiDeceptor for. I don't know if you guys have any questions about what you saw. Okay, so no questions at all.
Yeah, I will comment. Very nice, Stan. So if some of you guys wants to do this fast track lab by your own, please send an email to Stan, and we will organize that lab for you.
Well, we got a question about from Christoph, who asked, will it be integrated in the fabric? Well, as you can see now, the integration is now only with the FortiGate, but also with the FortiAnalyzer. Okay, so the integration now is the FortiDeceptor tells the FortiGates through an API call to block that IP address from connecting to a network. Also, the information of the FortiDeceptor will go to the FortiAnalyzer, and the FortiAnalyzer can use that information also to trigger an indicator of compromise, for example. But I think the integration will go further and better also.
That's true.
So Christoph also asked, how about the client block known bad IP? Yeah, so the attacker is coming from a certain IP address, of course. That's also is possible to block. Okay, so it's possible to block the external IP address for any incoming connections from that IP address, but it's also possible to block the IP address of the compromised victim inside your network. You can do both. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Karen, if everything goes well, you have a Kahoot for us?
Something,
Yes.
just want to add something.
Well, yes.
Just a moment about the Cisco ICE connector. For the question on the previous session, the Cisco ICE connector is today available on the FortiManager, not on the FortiGate, but on the FortiManager. So that answer that question was posed in the previous session. Okay, please.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Lars, Peter, and Stan for the most interesting updates of today. Before we leave you enjoying your weekend, I have two things to show you. Stan, can you share my screen, please?
Yeah, coming up, just a second. Okay. Okay, Karen, floor is yours.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Okay, now, all right. So I have two things to show you. Well, because of the current corona crisis, there are some roadshows and some events that have been cancelled. I show you our training and events on our website. The Fortinet Cybersecurity Roadshow, so the famous Forti truck, which we would use to come to you and to have a roadshow, will be cancelled, but it will be replaced by webinars. And we will have a webinar in Dutch, in English, and in French. And moreover, we have planned two fast-track events. Like Stan and Peter already mentioned, a fast-track event is a technical hands-on session which we will give to you virtually. And here are some dates already about our roadshows and about the fast-track sessions. We will send the invites very shortly. These invites will be, you can find them as well on our website. But be careful for the fast track sessions. We have a maximum of 20 registrations because it's a hands-on and it's a very interactive session. So that's one of the things I want to show you. And then the last thing is we have an online evaluation platform, and we would like to know what you think about the webinar you just have attended. So, so you will, okay, let me just put off the sound. Okay, so you find here the website. You can surf it to the website now with your mobile phone or your desktop and enter the PIN. And then I will see your names here and then we can start the evaluation. So I just wait for about half a minute until you join.
By the way, Karen, the second fast track is the 17th, not the 16th. We changed that.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's good to know. 17th. Okay, great. Okay, I already see two players. Are there other people who want to leave an evaluation, please? For us, it's really interesting to know what you found about the webinar. For us, it's the first time we do such webinars. So this morning it was a sales session. Now this afternoon, the technical session. So we would like to know your feedback as well. So I will wait another 20 seconds and then we will start the evaluation. Okay, see a lot of names coming. Great. Okay, I think we're ready to start the evaluation. So I'm going to give you 6 questions, and you have a multiple choice, so it's very easy. Why did you decide to join this webinar today? Please answer your questions. Okay, knowledge building. That's very nice. Hope you have learned a lot in this webinar. So we will move on until the next question. Did you like the presentations and the demos, of course? Mm. Okay, so you want more, so hopefully we will meet on the fast track events and our roadshows, of course. If you have any other ideas or options for future webinars, so do not hesitate to send us a little email about the topics you would like to see. Okay, let's move on. The third question. What do you think about the webinar flow? Okay, so you enjoyed the webinar and how we presented it. Thanks for this feedback. And up to the next question. Did the webinar meet your expectations? So most of you, it did meet your expectations. For those who were partially satisfied, please drop us an email about what we can improve for the next webinar. So next question. I think I have a project for this solution. Please send us your feedback. Okay, so some of you, they have some projects in the next 6 to 12 months, or even on a longer term. If we can help you, just notify us, and we can set up a discussion with you and your customer. And last question, can we contact you after this webinar for a meeting or a virtual meeting? Oh, thanks for providing your answers. Most of you, they would like to have a meeting with us. So we will contact you shortly. And that was it for today. Thank you very much for participating, and hope to see you or to hear you in our next webinars. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.